Yeah, welcome to round one of the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. We're down at Winton in Victoria, which is always an odd one, obviously, for a state round for New South Wales, but we've been very privileged for them to give us that opportunity while we're still waiting for our second track to come back online. Only fortunately, we had a small group of cars here this weekend due to various issues with some of our usual state competitors. And we have a few cars still in build that were expected to be finished by them, but they just haven't got here. So whilst it's a small field, it's going to be plenty of action, and that'll all be on Blendline Live TV. So looking forward to it. Yeah, it's got a new car here with Francois Habib.
Yeah, we have a new car. Well, it's an old car that's been sort of rebuilt in a way. It used to belong to Bob Gill, who unfortunately passed away last week. So I'm really happy to see the New South Wales guys jump on board and pay tribute to Bob Gill by putting the stickers on the rear saying rest in peace, which is really, really good. He's actually seen the car develop after I bought it off him. So I was privileged enough to buy a car off him and privileged enough to also to refine it. Today's its first shakedown, I guess. We've had a few dramas, minor ones, but we're working through them. So we'll see how we go over the weekend. Everything on this is custom made, so unfortunately, if I have a little bit of a bingle, it's going to be a little while to fix because we haven't made any spare parts yet. But it's been an exciting project actually to watch it, transform suspension, roll centres, and obviously the most exciting part's seeing the panels all get made in the carbon that they have. So it's been pretty cool.
Big difference got to drive, aren't they, between the supercar to this?
Oh yeah, again chalk and cheese. The supercar, has 200-300 engineers that have been developing these cars over many, many years. A sports sedan is virtually made by ground up build, and everyone does them differently, and that's what makes them so unique. So completely different.
No two are the same, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And driving this is completely different to a supercar.
So this weekend is a tribute that we've put together for Bob Gill. Bob was right there at the start of the formation of Sports Sedans in essence. They say he wasn't at the first meeting, but he might as well have been because he was at the second. And he was a driving force with Victorian and New South Wales to get them separated off Sports Sedans from the sports cars and Sports Sedan group. So I think it was 1973, Sports Sedans became their own nominated category through CAMS. And Bob was involved in all of that. The joke is that he wore out the carpet in CAMS, pacing up and down arguing with the boys at the time to try and make sure that happened. But we're here today and we have a category here 50 years later as a result of people like Bob. So from New South Wales perspective, it was a no-brainer. As sad as it was that Bob had passed last week, we jumped on board with the Victorian Sports Sedans, with Francois and Chris Neal, who looks after all the heritage for the Sports Sedans, and again, one of the founding members. And we pulled this together. The guys from Victoria put the stickers together for us to put on the back of each of the cars. And everybody's here, for the right reasons for what Bob wants, and that's celebration of his life. And also, Bob was involved not only driving cars. He won a championship back in Club Championship 2013.
That's right, yes.
He was the president. He was secretary from time to time. So he was a lot of things to this category. And people like that's what you need to make these categories grow and survive. But it's an honour for us to do that, and we really thank Francois for coming on board, and the Victorian Sports Sedans came on board to help us out so we could actually get live stream this weekend, which is a great opportunity for Francois to debut the car. And we're looking forward to having you out there, mate, and getting around.
I appreciate being with the New South Wales guys. Thanks for your hospitality as well. You'll notice too that we're running the number 5 on the car, which was Bob Gill's number as well, in his honour as well too. So after I bought the car, I got to know him really well. So I've known him probably 3 years now. It hasn't been a long time, but I've visited him quite often. I spoke to him only a few days actually before he passed. He was very, very weak, but he was happy with what we'd achieved, and that was the main thing. I just wanted him to be happy as well. I wanted to do what I wanted to do to make it mine, but at the same time, I didn't want to disrespect what he'd done before me as well. So
There it is, Francois Habib in the ex-Bob Gill machine. Absolutely, rest in peace, Bob, a real stalwart of sports sedans. We owe so much to him for everything he has done for this category around the nation. Here's the starting grid. Brad Shields from first alongside Stephen Lacey, Chris Jackson and Glenn Prove. Habib will come out of fifth, ahead of Ram McGlurkin, but we are about to get started. And we are underway. Good start from Shields. He will lead them down into turn number 1 in the Fiat 124. Brilliantly presented machine. Also a bit of contact between Habib and the number 12. Was that machine? So taken to the grass by the 121 machine of Pro. That was a bit of a hairy moment there. They're both back underway. And McGlurkin is going to try and get Habib now into turn number 3. Can't quite make it stick on this occasion. And slots back in behind. Alongside myself, Dan McCarthy is the man behind Blendline TV. Dan Beckinsale, brilliant to have you alongside me, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's great to be here and seeing New South Wales Sports Sedans returning to Winton Motor Raceway for the opening round of the 2024 season. Of course, we saw them in 2023 here as well, and we saw Steve Lacey and Brad Shields have some fantastically epic battles across that weekend. So hopefully we see more of the same, and also a huge thanks to RDS Real Estate and Development Solutions for their support of this weekend, along with the Victorian Sports Sedans Championship with Francois Habib running that Bob Gill Falcon. Great to see it back on track, and we know Bob will be looking down and enjoying the racing once again here today.
Absolutely. It's so immaculately presented, as you say. He'll be looking down, smiling from ear to ear, seeing that thing on the racetrack in its purple livery. And we're on board with that very car right now. He swings it into turn number 11. Doesn't it sound absolutely fantastic from the onboard that Blendline are supplying us as he gets on the power and it roars down pit straight, and we can see the little rest in peace Bob Gill sign on the front panel there.
Yeah, no doubt this car will turn a lot of heads this weekend. It almost broke the internet yet again, as sports fans often do when we see a new one released, and the amount of time and effort that's gone in from so many people to get this car not only back on track but revamp it as well into almost its own brand new piece of machinery. And Francois, of course, has seen some success in Victorian sports sedans in his Commodores, and now he's made the trek over into the Falcon, at least bodywork, to be able to see what he can do. Of course, with sports sedans, a lot of them space frame silhouettes.
Yes.
Not always what is underneath the car. And look at this thrill coming down through here as well. Got Pro, who's just in front of Habib, and then it looks like Smith was having a look at McClurkin there down into the first hairpin. So a battle down in 6th and 7th place as well. Whoa, look at him light the rears up there, Habib.
Yeah, it was a moment. Good save.
Yeah.
Not used to, well, he's used to that much power driving the Dodo ex-Tasman motorsport car that he drives in the Victorian series, but moving on to this weekend in the New South Wales series. Big lock up there for the number 24 machine of Smith, but keeps it on the tarmac, which is what we like to see. A small field of sports sedans here, but a real quality field of sports sedans this weekend.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that not as many cars as we would have loved to have seen from New South Wales made the trek down. Unfortunately, even though it's a long weekend and a bit more time to be able to, well, not really a long weekend, but a long weekend by manufacturer, I guess you could say.
Yes.
A few guys weren't able to get their cars ready in time. I also just noticed there that it looks like we've had Chris Jackson join the field. He obviously missed the start of the race, so he's getting back out to be able to... Oh no, he's sitting in 3rd place, so I just missed him at the start of the race. The Calibra going under the radar for me, and he's pumping down into 3rd position as McClurkin back into the pits. Looks like he's got some sort of issue. Not much noise coming from that car as we're used to seeing.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
There.
Another veteran of sports sedans racing is McGlurkin, but that has come to a halt in the pit lane after just 2 laps of racing. So that's disappointing to see. Here is Pro out there on the racetrack after his little off-track excursion on the opening lap. I see that he's brought a lot of gravel and grass onto the road at turn number 2, making life a little bit tricky, going back to the rallycross routes of old that Winton used to host. But cars staying on the track, fortunately getting through that gravel unscathed at this point in time. And this car also unscathed in 4th position. But Habib is not too far behind And Habib's actually going a couple of tenths a lap faster at this stage of the race.
I was going to say, he'll start seeing Habib in the mirror now, Will Pro. And I tell you what, Pro has done a lot of work to get this car back on track. We've seen it in and out of sports sedans, like so many of them. There's little tinkering things, little development issues. You go down one track and then you decide that actually that power system's not maybe going to work for you, isn't as reliable as you'd like it to be. And Glenn Pro's one of those guys. He's in the garage, so many of these guys are. It's the home garage. They're doing it themselves. They're juggling their own business commitments. They're trying to make it sure that they get to race meetings, and they have to put in so much effort to be able to be out on track. It's good to see Glenn Pro being up there in amongst the battle again as we go on board with Habib as he chases him down. We've got to say thanks to the Victorian Sports Sedans Championship, Australian Sports Sedan Association, for their support of the broadcast here this weekend as well. They've come on board to be able to help New South Wales Sports Sedans have live broadcast here on Glenline TV and also pay tribute to Bob Gill, a long-time campaigner. We met him many, many years ago. I think anyone who's been involved with Victorian or even national sports sedans along the journey, you've been in touch with Bob somewhere along the way. Wanted to see more people racing, was a good campaigner, a long-time supporter, and he'll be missed, but we'll continue racing in his honour as we are this weekend. We've also got to give a big shout out to the regular man behind the microphone for Sports Sedans, Darren Smith. I know he would have loved to have been here this weekend. Yes. Unfortunately, it all came together very late and Darren was not able to be up here to see New South Wales, but he'll be back behind the mic for the Victorian guys later in the season and keeping track of their racing as well. So big shout out to him.
Sorry, a Pro Den just got all crossed up over the curb at the final turn, and that cost him momentum all the way down the straight, and that is why Habib has really closed the margin there that time through. So yeah, Habib now just half a second behind, and you can see where both of these cars have their different strengths and weaknesses, and it's playing out in front of our eyes at the moment. But that thing, running a bit wide out at turn number 3. Fortunately for Pro, that extra ripple strip that was extended during COVID probably saved him there, else he'd have been really out in the kitty litter.
He's definitely been able to use that extra bit of track to his advantage, though, down through the back section. You can see he's opened the gap yet again. So it seems to me that Pro is actually stronger probably from about turn 4 all the way down through to the second of the hairpins. And then once we get onto those straights and more open radius corners, you can see that Habib's able to close the gap down. Of course, it's his first weekend in the car. He didn't even do the full practice day in the car yesterday because they had so many systems checks they wanted to run through. They were actually rotating drivers through the car just to be able to correlate that what they were understanding from it was the right things and it was giving all the right information back, which I think shows as well, like for someone like Habib, that he's prepared to be able to just make sure that the car is just as important as anything else out there. He doesn't just try to hold on to it being just his own thing, and that's fantastic to see the sharing.
Yeah. Car accelerates out of the final corner to complete another lap. He had a little, Pro slowing on the straight, and through goes Habib. There's a bit of black smoke as he's trying to get a gear there, Pro. So some sort of issue, and Habib makes it stick. Big lunge down into turn number 1, but Pro looks to fight back. So a bit of a gear selection issue, I think, for that machine. And again, down into turn number 3, same again. So I'm not sure he's quite able to find the gears he's looking for at the moment. I think a gearbox gremlin, that's for sure.
Yeah, he'll have to try to just settle in now behind Habib and see if he can just tack onto the rear of him and make another move. He might be able to get that position back, but if you've got gear selector issues at this place, sometimes you'll find that you're able to drive half the track and then it's down the bottom you'll have a problem, or up the top you'll have an issue, and you can't shift into that gear. We see it so many times, especially at this place, with how much work the drivers have to do, especially in the section they're in now. Of course, we've also got to thank Real Estate and Development Solutions for supporting the New South Wales Sports Sedans this weekend. They're part of a big conglomeration of sponsors that are able to look after. So we've got a replay of the pass coming down the main straight as we go on board with the Habib car, and you can just see, it's like Pro wasn't able to get a gear. You're right, halfway down the straight, just maybe couldn't select 4th gear or something like that. That's all he's got.
Seemed to happen again out of turn number 2 on the run to turn number 3. So I think it's one of the higher gears, maybe 4th or something like that. We'll see if it rears its head again as he hits pit straight one more time. Yeah, it has. He's definitely not able to get one of those gears, 4th or 5th, and it's really costing him on the straight straight lines. Fortunately, it's not Sydney Motorsport Park. I think it would cost you even more around there. Winton being a tight technical circuit, it's not costing him too much time, only on the 2 straights. This man is miles out in front, 6.8 seconds the margin ahead of Lacey. Lacey is actually at Tasmania for the first round of the National Sports Sedans, racing his Mark GT car. But back this weekend in a car that we know him driving so commonly, particularly in New South Wales.
Yeah, speaking to Steve before the weekend started, he actually didn't partake of practice this morning because the car was setting PBs yesterday during practice. So they went out for 2 sessions. They did a PB in session 1, a PB in session 2, and decided to put the car away. Obviously doesn't need anything. They were really hoping that through the latter stages of these races, they'd be able to come on strong, and perhaps Brad Shields would struggle a little bit later on. Of course, with the sports sedan, things get hot. You start having dramas. You never know what's going to happen. You start backing off to look after the car. And if you're Steve Lacey, you're looking at it going, well, I can keep this Chev going hard all the way to the end. He was hoping that that would be able to help him with the rotary turbo in front. But at this stage, 8 seconds the gap, I don't think it's helped him that much.
No. But they are quite far ahead of Jackson in the 26 machine. And there it is, the car we were just talking about, Lacey, heading into turn number 10. So those are the margins, 8 seconds between Shields and Lacey, and then 30 seconds between Lacey and Jackson. Shields is slowly making his way through the lap traffic, which is 6th and 5th position. So he's making light work of the field out there in this, the first 18-minute plus 1 lap encounter of the weekend for New South Wales Sports Sedans. Brilliant to have them, though, here just over the border into Victoria this weekend.
It's not the biggest trip down the Hume for the New South Wales Sports Sedans to come down here, but it still is quite a bit of work. But with only 1 track at the moment in New South Wales for them to race on, it does add some variety to be able to come down here to Winton Motor Raceway, and they put a lot of effort to get down here. You can see here Chris Jackson in the Calibre, of course. That's a multi-champion car with a multi-champion driver behind the wheel. Shields and Lacey are both trying to overhaul him on the status of champions at the moment. But Chris Jackson getting the Calibre back out, the CSJ engineering car. It's been a couple of years since we saw it run a whole season. He's done a lot of development. What would be surprising for most people to know about this car actually is Chris puts a lot of tech into the car as well. There's lots of little things like an iPad on the steering wheel, and well, it's not an iPad, but it's a touchscreen device that he uses for being able to track data and all sorts of stuff going on. So while they may look like they're basic engineering in some regards, there's also a lot of little intricate moments and intricate bits inside the cars that they use to track different data and different information to be able to know what's happening in the car. And also with someone like Chris Jackson, he has a couple of other people who jump behind the wheel as well. He gives young Brock an opportunity to race, which brings them into the sport where young drivers aren't able to necessarily build one of these cars themselves, just because we want to see more people out there racing in sports sedans. So ticking down the clock here at the moment, it looks like Brad Shields very comfortable out in front. He's done a best lap of 1:22.5, which is about a second a lap quicker than Steve Lacey. At the moment, he's lapping half a second quicker as well, so there's not really much for Steve to be able to do there, and I dare say that now they're starting to think about race 2. Make sure you don't have an off-track excursion or do something silly that will cause you some sort of drama.
The third fastest car on the track at the moment is the car we're looking at on the screen. PB last time through, 1:28.8. Habib coming a couple of seconds a lap on Jackson, and the margin 8 seconds. I'm not sure he's going to have enough time in this race, but race 2 tomorrow will be interesting. Habib clearly getting more and more comfortable lap after lap, and you're laughing because Jackson's just set his PB.
I was going to say, Jackson obviously just got the radio call that Habib behind you is pushing.
Yes.
Maybe just put the hammer down slightly. He was 0.3 of a second quicker on that last lap, so Jackson managing the gap. Of course, all of these cars also have a team radio back to the pits and a spotter standing up on the hill just to give them an overview of what's going on around Winton Motor Raceway on what is a beautiful day here today. It's gotten a little bit warmer than we expected for the top temperature, but still not much of a breeze. There's no clouds in the sky. It's actually quite a nice day to be at this racetrack, so really enjoying that.
Late April at Winton. I never thought it would be so nice,
No.
but there we go. And from what I hear, it's going to be even nicer tomorrow as well. A couple of degrees warmer, maybe slightly more overcast, but even warmer tomorrow. So very nice. Winton in April. Better come down if you are watching on the Blendline TV stream. Make sure you head down to, or up if you're in Victoria, up to Winton. Only 2.5 hours really from the Melbourne CBD. It's not too far, particularly in this day and age. Just a hop, skip and a jump in a modern road car. This is a modern reconstruction of the late Bob Gill's Falcon, and it's performing strongly on debut, which Bob would love to see, that's for sure, as he rounds the final corner to complete yet another lap. And there we can see the temperature, nearly 23 degrees. Lovely.
Absolutely fantastic. Out in front, Brad Shields in the Joe Said Fiat 124 Coupe. This is another car that effectively breaks the internet every time we get it on screen as we come down to the final lap. He's got the last lap board now, so Brad Shields will be just looking to bring it home. He's got 9.8 seconds on Steve Lacey behind in this opening race of the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship, proudly brought to you this weekend by Real Estate and Development Solutions. They've come on board to be able to support the championship. We look forward to seeing Rod Monaghan back behind the wheel actually in a couple of future rounds. If you want to get involved with the New South Wales Sports Sedans, make sure to check out their website and Facebook pages. Plenty of information on how you can get a car out on track as well. And it doesn't have to be a space frame sports sedan either. You can start with a floor plan car, effectively add about 10% to an IPRA car, be able to get out there, have a bit of a race around and build your way up into probably championship contention here, like you see with Brad Shields. Joe said put so much effort into this car. Such a strong supporter of the championship, such a passionate supporter of sports sedans as well. So to see it rack up another victory, we know Joe and the team down in the pits will be absolutely celebrating this as Brad Shields brings it home. Listen to that roar.
It's got such a cult following, doesn't it, this
does,
car?
yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone tunes in. If you say any Blendline TV video with this, it gets quite a few clicks, and this one will, as it rounds the final corner to take a dominant victory in race number 1. Over 10 seconds the margin. There is second place all the way in the distance. A good performance from Lacey. He'll be pleased with how his machine has gone, and he will come home in position number 2. The official margin at the end of that one, 13.6 seconds. Oh, Habib off on the final lap. Is there more to it than that? Fingers crossed it's just an off-track excursion.
Yeah, it looks like the car has gotten quite warm, as often does, with the NASCAR 6-litre Ford motor sitting pretty much under the front windscreen there. Of course, in a sports sedan space frame car, they move the engine back and to the middle to be able to get even weight distribution. So often the driver's knee is right up against the extractors, and he'll no doubt be able to feel it. We'll see if we can see what happened to Francois on the last lap of this one, but that'll give Chris Jackson a lot of breathing room to be able to bring home third place. It looks like the car's okay. We've got a replay. And is he just, turning it in? I think
Late lock-up.
Yeah, he's just started to tip it in and lock the front right, and you can see all the flames from the overrun there as he comes down on the grass. So
It's a good sight.
yeah,
Good
no
sight.
doubt they'll scrub those tyres off and get them ready for race 2 tomorrow morning. Of course, you can watch all the action here on Blendline TV.
Oh, another lock-up.
Yeah, he's struggling. Maybe he's got some front brake issues there. It looks like right as he tries to tip it in at the max braking, it's quite taking the corner for him.
Yeah, it seems all right initially, and then late in the braking zone, it seems to lock up. So a couple of issues there on the last lap, but I think Francois Habib will be pretty pleased with the debut, his debut in that machine. And despite the off-track excursion down at turn number 3, held on to 4th ahead of Glenn Pro. So here are the results of that one. Brad Shields taking the win, 13.5 seconds to Lacey. Chris Jackson finishing in the end a lonely 3rd ahead of Francois Habib. Glenn Pro coming home in 5th, and then Graham Smith, the last of the finishers. Ren McGlurkin, unfortunately, not seeing the end of that one. And same with Sean. That's quite hard to say on this Saturday afternoon. New South Wales Sports Sedans, I hope you enjoyed race number 1. If you're watching on Blendline TV, that was a replay from yesterday. You are now back live. It's race number 2. Same race distance, same cars. Finishing positions from yesterday determine the grid of this one. You got the 2 Dans in commentary once again for this one. Myself, Dan McCarthy, alongside the man behind Blendline TV, Dan Beckinsale. You know these guys all so well. Do you want to talk us through the grid?
Oh, definitely. We've been seeing these New South Wales sports stands for many years on Blendline TV. And Brad Shields, yet again, leading the way at Winton Motor Raceway. Him and Steve Lacey had some great battles in 2023 and looking forward to continuing those in 2024. Chris Jackson sitting behind them. Brake dramas yesterday. He was struggling with the front brakes to be able to pull it up. Another person struggling with brakes a little bit was Francois Habib in the return of the Bob Gill Falcon NASCAR Ford motor in the front of that one. So make sure to turn it up. Glenn Pro sitting in behind Graham Smith, Rand McClurkin Sr. and Sean McQuenney running out our runners here for this opening round of the season. They'll head to Sydney Motorsport Park for round 2 coming up in late May. But first, we've got to get through 2 more races today. You can see Steve Lacey just trying to hold Brad wide to make sure that he can also get a run onto the main straight. Great respectful racing from a lot of them, so yes, you won't see any shenanigans as such, but they're still trying to make sure that they get the best run they can.
Don't put the commentator's curse on them too soon, Dan. We don't want to see an incident down at turn 1. Habib was holding back, accelerating, holding back again, and he's gone. Full throttle, pedal to the metal. Looks like they're all going to slot into positions in the top 4. Habib does slot in there just ahead of Pro. But Pro's got a great run out of turn number 2. Swings it to the inside, brakes later, and takes that position. So change of place in 4th. Habib shuffled back in the brilliantly presented Ford Falcon in honour of the late Bob Gill, who passed away in recent days.
Now, we saw this yesterday from Glenn Pro, didn't we? He managed to get himself up into 4th place, and then later in the race, Habib was able to just get his head around the Falcon and pull back past him. A little mistake from Pro down in the run into 4 saw him also make that job a little bit easier for Habib, who's now coming under pressure from a fast-starting McQuenney, who started a little bit further back in the field than he probably expected because he had some dramas in yesterday's race. And sitting in behind that, Glenn Smith in the RX-7. Last year down here at Winton, Glenn had a little bit of a drama, knocked the rear of the car about, and the whole community came together to make sure that he ran throughout the weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed the experience, so it's good to see him back here. Of course, he's been a long-time campaigner in sports sedans now, moving up through a couple of different cars. But he's been looking to work his way up into the mid-pack as Brad Shields and Steve Lacey pull away out in front. Chris Jackson in 3rd across the line for the first lap. And then this battle, Glenn Pro, he's just opened a little bit of a gap on Habib there in the back section of the circuit.
You touched on it, through the grass, a bit further back. Who was that? The 3rd place man. You were saying fewer braking issues for that machine, and that appears to have reared its head again down there into turn number 1. But we're focused on this car on the screen, the Camaro of Lacey. He doesn't want to let Shields get away in this one. He let him get away early yesterday. The margin already on the end of the first lap is 1.5 seconds. He's putting his foot down though. Well, I can see how committed he is around turn number 7 there, trying to keep up with Shields, doing everything he possibly can to keep up with that beautiful Fiat ahead.
I'll tell you what, Steve Lacey makes sure that he gets everything he can out of that Real Dairy Australia Lederer Camaro. He's picked up multiple race victories, multiple championships as well in that car. It is for sale at the moment if you would like to pick up a seasoned front-running vehicle. I'll tell you what, you can do worse than to pick up this one and be able to get yourself right to the front of New South Wales Sports Sedans. Of course, supported this weekend by Real Estate and Development Solutions. We thank Rod Monahan and his team for all of their support of the New South Wales Sports Sedans. We should see Rod back out there at round 2 as we go further back and see Habib. I think he looked like he missed a gear out of the 3rd to last corner there, turn 10.
Yeah, it certainly looks slow and compromised out of there. And as a result, coming under pressure from Mulkini. But at this stage, holding on. A train of cars, though, with McGlurkin in 8th at the tail. So this is 5th all the way down to 8th. And Habib's certainly slow. Yeah, he's slowing. There's a real problem, and he's balked. Poor McClinney there to the inside, and McClinney is lost out because of Habib's issue. It falls to the tail of the train as well. But what has gone wrong with this Falcon? And now McGlurkin's missed a gear, and that allows up the inside McClinney ahead of us to take that place. But that car does not sound right at all. Habib hardly moving around there. Oh, off the road goes the number 88 machine. It's all happening early on in this one. McKinney off the road, and through goes McGurkin once again. And is that the Mazda slowing?
It is.
Oh no, and it's got it bogged. He's got it stuck to the inside. Basically, he pulled to the inside and fell off a cliff at the inside of the track.
Damage to the front of that car. There is.
That was all caused
coming off the track.
Yeah, it was. Yes, there was absolutely no damage to it at all. He's pulled to the inside of the track, gone over the curb, and it's just bottomed out and then ripped the front bumper off the car. So this is the move I saw at the comms box. This is McKinney up the inside of McGlurkin, and then he runs wide at turn number 4. So runs 2 wheels, in fact 4 wheels through the gravel. There he goes. So McGlurkin gets that place, and then a few moments later, Smith comes to a halt on the inside of the track. Can't quite see it on the camera shot there, but yeah, pulls off the side of the road, and it bottoms out badly, and it's damaged.
Oh, Lacey's off the track as well.
Oh,
he's run wide down through turn 4 exit, so I'm not sure if maybe there's something down on the ground through that second. It might have been, I would suspect, because I did see a little bit of a puff of smoke from Smith's car, that potentially he's had some sort of fluid be left on the track, potentially a radiator or something like that, and that's caught out Quenny, who was right behind him, and then Steve Lacey is probably the first front runner to come around behind Brad Shields, who obviously missed it, and he's slid through the gravel as well. So they've got to watch themselves down through turn 4 at the moment. We'll see if they can see any sheen as Chris Jackson now sees his opportunity to get past Lacey. The CSJ engineering car sitting right behind there. He's going to look to the outside at turn 10. Lacey is aware of it and defending. Of course, he'll have not the best tyre condition at the moment, so he'll be waiting to see what can go on. But Chris Jackson had front brake dramas during race 1. They think they're on top of them, but they're not entirely sure, as unfortunately Habib returns to the pit lane.
What a shame.
Not what we wanted to see for that car, of course. Running in tribute to Bob Gill this weekend. Thank you to the Australian Sports Sedan Association for their support of the onboard and for the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. We know those guys love coming up here and racing. They'll be back in action later in the year at Phillip Island as their next round in June. But at the moment, we're looking at the New South Wales Sports Sedans. Steve Lacey still under pressure from Chris Jackson here. Now, Chris Jackson, we've seen run at the front of New South Wales Sports Sedans for many years in that Calibra.
Four-time champion, isn't he, of the series? And Lacey himself, a 4-time champion. So both of these two hoping to become the first ever 5-time New South Wales state champion this year. But at the moment, it looks like they're both trying to keep up with Shields, who dominated yesterday. And he's out to an 18-second lead with the mistake made by Lacey a couple of laps ago. So although these are the 4-time champions, they're really trying to keep up with the reigning champion, Shields, car number 1 in the Fiat out front.
He's not going to be able to chase him down at the moment. I think 18 seconds is going to be too much to overhaul, especially since Brad Shields keeps lapping tenths of a second or more faster than everybody else in the field. Lacey just trying to pick up the championship points at the moment. Of course, it's a long season. You never know what's going to happen, and sports sedans renowned for being temperamental in the later stages of a race meeting. So you never know what you could have. As we go back and take a look at the 88 down through the back section of the circuit, he's trying to chase down and catch Rand McGlurkin Sr., who's managed to get in front of him after that off-track excursion we saw for him at turn 4. So Mulqueny continuing his way back through the field in the Nissan.
He set his PB last time through, half a second faster than the veteran McGlurkin ahead. 75 years of age, McGlurkin still enjoys this sports sedans racing as much as ever, and he'll be enjoying this battle, although he'll probably prefer to be pulling away rather than having the car behind close in. Oh, big tail slide out of the final corner, putting the power down. So much power directly to the rear wheels in these machines.
Well, Quenny can sniff an opportunity here to make the pass. I think he's got a little bit more pace than McGlurkin at the moment, of course. He wants to get back up there, but it's a long way ahead to Glenn Pro, who's in front of these two. A good what, 15 seconds at the moment. So this is our battle on track. Chris Jackson has dropped away from Steve Lacey. You can see from the timing screen on the left. Of course, timing screen brought to you by Real Estate and Development Solutions here for the New South Wales Sports Sedans for this opening round of the season. If you'd like to know more about New South Wales Sports Sedans and get out there and race yourself, of course, we said Steve Lacey's car is currently for sale. Get onto the Facebook page and the website for more information. They're a great bunch of people, always willing to get on the phone and have a chat as well if you're looking to develop a car to get out in either New South Wales or Victoria with the Australian Sports Sedan Association. There's plenty of opportunities. There's a few cars around and about, and all the right people with the right knowledge to be able to point you in the direction you need to go. You don't have to build a space frame car to be racing out there and having a great time. Of course, the two on screen are both full all-pan vehicles as well, so it shows you that you can go racing a multitude of different ways. And doesn't that McLurkin car look great as now McQuenny gets to the inside, got the drive down the back straight, manages the pass. Good respectful racing from the pair of them. He's very tight on that line into the final corner, isn't he, as he gets the drive down.
And doesn't use all of the curb like a lot of the competitors do either on the exit, but clearly the line's working because he has made up a place. Moves into the top 5. Oh, but big slide mid-corner, nearly fires it off the road as soon as he makes the place. Just about kept it together. But McLurkin is closed, back on the tail once again. Just about kept it on the road. You may see from the front-on shot of the number 88 car a Chevrolet badge on a Skyline. He's done that because the engine in that Skyline is a Chev engine. So not what you're used to seeing underneath the hood of, I hate saying hood, it's an American expression, but yes, underneath the bonnet of the the Nissan is a Chevrolet engine. McLurkin is really closed up once again. Now that they've swapped positions, it's McLurkin, the faster of the two. Looks really nice and hooked up around the tight technical section that is Sector 2 of the Winton Motor Raceway. And Lacey's car, I'm not sure that sounded quite right there as it went past.
It did sound like it was labouring past the combox, but this battle continues on at the moment. McLurkin has sniffed the opportunity to get back in it. There's nothing like having a car just in front of you of slightly similar pace to be able to incentivise you to think, I could get involved in a race here. As McLurkin now gets under brakes into the second to last corner and closes that gap up. McQuenny seems to be better on the power. The car seems to just be able to squat onto the rear wheels and get launched out of the corner a little bit better. So at the moment, he's able to hold on to that position as we again look at Chris Jackson, the CSJ engineering car working its way through the back section of the course. Good to see Chris out there getting this car racing again. He's spent a few seasons off after he decided to fully rebuild and repair the car. It needed a bit of a birthday refresh a couple of seasons ago, as often sports sedans do, especially with the changing nature of rules and regulations and what you can and can't do. There's opportunities to go a little bit faster with things like sequential gearboxes. As we go now and look at Glen Pro, we saw him do a similar one to this yesterday, didn't we, as he went a little bit wide. He's done it on corner exit this time, trying to hold a little bit too much pace onto that back straight.
That explains the dust we can still see hovering at turn number 4. A point was made by the couple of cameramen how slowly the dust is moving off the circuit at the moment. It sort of hovers in the air and it takes several minutes for the dust to dissipate. And now we've seen that out there now. But Chris Jackson pottering around, and he is pottering at the moment, 7 seconds off his previous lap. In fact, all of the leaders seem to be cruising home. Shields 3 seconds slower than his PB. Lacey 5 seconds slower than his PB. Jackson 7 seconds slower than his PB. Meanwhile, McLurkin isn't doing that. PB lap for him last time through. He's actually closing the margin back to McKinney. So after losing the place to McKinney just a few moments ago, he's, as you say, got the bit between his teeth. He wants that position back. A top 5 finish in New South Wales Sports Sedans is not an easy achievement, and he wants it. But they're both about to be lapped by the dominant race leader, Brad Shields, out front.
Yeah, that Fiat 124 Coupe is just a little bit too strong for everybody here this weekend so far, as we look at Glen Pro coming down into the bottom section of the course. This car looks reasonably well planted at the moment and seems like he's driving it around quite nicely. Of course, we saw that little off-track excursion on the exit of 4 where it looks like he's actually trying to find some lap time and increase the pace through that downhill section of the circuit. It's good to see Glenn Pro out there getting championship points, picking up the laps, making sure that this car keeps on going around and able to get some good race miles on it. He's another one who's done a fairly significant amount of work to make sure he's out and able to battle with the RDS New South Wales Sports Sedans. Oh, Brad Shields working his way through.
He was going to the outside, and McGlurkin cruised across, taking the normal racing line, and nearly had a moment there. And also, of note, McGlurkin has found his way through past McKinney somewhere in that back section. As Shields has come through, he's made his way past. So, not sure exactly where that has occurred, but a change of position. Here reports it was turn 6, so just after the sweeper. It's a good committed move if you can make it stick down there into turn number 7. So the veteran retakes 5th position, but they are both now down a lap. The question is, now he's in front, can he stay in front? Because once again, it looks like the guy behind is the faster of the two.
He's going to catch up to him again, isn't he? So I wonder whether it was just a case of they knew Brad Shields was coming and they just slowed down a little bit too much from McQuenny and he lost the position, or if McClurkin actually found a pretty decent amount of pace down through that back section as well. You never know until you see it on the camera or get the report post-event. But it's been a great little ding-dong battle between the two Nissans down through here, doesn't that? That car of McClurkin's definitely has throwbacks to the old Super GT racing, of course, that we saw over in Japan for many, many years.
It's great to have the New South Wales Sports Sedans down here in Victoria. A few less numbers than what we've come to expect in recent years, but when New South Wales Sports Sedans head home back to Sydney Motorsport Park and the like in the coming rounds, numbers will increase once again. But just with the fact that at this point New South Wales only has one active racetrack, made sense to come down south, as all of the categories have done this weekend, and we're so grateful to have them here at Winton Motor Raceway in country Victoria. As we can see, McGlurkin, there we go, we can see the last lap board. Shields comes across the line, nearly half a minute the margin now. Certainly been a dominant display from the Fiat once again, the reigning champion, showing why he is the reigning champion in New South Wales Sports Sedans. Doesn't it just sound awesome, this machine?
It's one of the most iconic sounds in sports sedan racing, Australia-wide really, and has been for the last couple of years. Of course, has been through many different iterations. Now it's a turbocharged rotary under the, I guess you could say, the windshield of that car. It's sitting almost back in Brad's lap. Left-hand drive, which some people watching may think is a little bit unusual, but the sports sedans, a lot of them have been built left-hand drive for weight distribution, for being able to get around a majority of corners quicker. Of course, that's what it's all about. That's how these things are built. As Brad Shields well and truly out in front. He's made it look easy this weekend. Often when you give Brad a lead, though, he does. He just is able to put the head down lap after lap consistently, look after the car and make sure he brings it home. And that's why Joe said loves putting Brad in this thing. He's able to get the most out of it. Joe has engineered an absolute weapon of a vehicle to be out there. Hugely passionate about sports sedans as well. There's not a more deserving victor in the pit lane than Joe said and his team down there. You can see them clapping over the wall as Brad comes to bring home a victory. Great to see that for the Fiat, and now we'll wait for Steve Lacey to bring it home. Before that, though, we're going to see the fight for fifth be determined. It looks like it is going to be McGlurkin that is going to hold on. It was he lost it briefly. Oh, in fact, he's going to lose it at the line. Oh, I couldn't call that. How close is that? 0.02 of a second. McGlurkin holds on. Wow, what a finish. PB for McKinney on the final lap of the race, but comes up 0.02 of a second short. I couldn't even call that as they crossed the line. It was that close. Steve Lacey comes home in second position behind that drama and that fight for fifth. And then we look at the third place car. This is Chris Jackson, who looks like he's really been cruising it home the last few laps. I think
potentially nursing those brakes that you said were a real issue for the car yesterday. So thinking, while I'm not in a battle, I'll just cruise it to the finish, bring home third position, and that's exactly what he's done. Sorry, my apologies. Good championship points for him.
That's what it's all about. Championship points. Make sure you bring the car home. And that often, with the sports sedan, will be able to change the course of the championship. We see Glenn Pro bringing the car to the finish line as well, rounding out our runners on track here at Winton Motor Raceway with the New South Wales Sports Sedans. They're proudly brought to you by Real Estate and Development Solutions this weekend, as well as a whole host of other partners who make sure that this series is able to travel around, give the competitors the best that they can have, and be able to support some great racing. As we take a look at the results, Brad Shields, 35 seconds in the end. Steve Lacey, Chris Jackson coming in behind that. Glenn Pro in fourth place. Rand McClurkin Sr. just holding on in that run to the line down against Sean McKinney. So a great second race. They'll be back later on this afternoon. We're Dan's everywhere this weekend as we take a look at the starting grid for this, the final race of the opening round of the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship. Brad Shields, he's going to try to pick up where he left off and make it 3 from 3 for this round, starting from the pole position. Steve Lacey alongside him. Chris Jackson in third place. Fourth, Glenn Pro. And then just behind that, we're going to have Grant McClurkin Sr. and Sean McQueenie. Unfortunately, Graham Smith and Francois Habib will not be starting this race. Habib blew a diff in the last one and they were not able to get it repaired. They've taken it back to Melbourne to fix the car up for the next round of the Victorian Sports Sedans Championship. And it would appear that Smith, when he went off the road, did too much damage to the under tray and the front bar of the car to be able to get it back on track. The power steering let go on that one, so there was oil down at turn 4, which explains why we saw a couple of them go off during that race. So Steve Lacey got himself back on. He also, just to cover off that one, he had a broken header pipe. They went back into town, got it welded back in, and were able to get themselves back out there for race 3. So you can see Steve Lacey to the inside, Brad Shields on the outside. That'll become the inside for the run down to turn 1. Chris Jackson sitting in behind them. He's had the brake issues all weekend, but they think they might be on top of it for this third race. So we'll see what happens on the run down into turn 1. We'll listen to the gods of thunder roar as they all put the pedal to the metal and down towards this narrowing funnel into the first corner here at Winton. Brad Shields leading the way quite comfortably. Chris Jackson had to hold off Glenn Pro there through turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Shields leads up into the next turn. How fast is that car of Shields? Just sprints away. A little rotary powered machine. Got lots and lots of grunt under the bonnet. Well, probably a bit further back than the bonnet, but certainly inside that car is a very powerful little motor. Makes its way down into Old Tank Corner. Further back, we've got car 121 Pro at the wheel of that car, working his way around down the twiddly bits of the track. Through that left-hander into the right-hander.
Yeah, Glenn Pro's had a good weekend so far, sitting inside the top 5 in the whole race meeting. So he's been able to get the, I guess, regular running out of the car this weekend, which hopefully bodes well for the rest of the season ahead. McQueenie is closing in on him from behind at the moment. McClurkin has sort of dropped off the back of this pair. As they come down the back straight, we'll have to see if Pro can continue to hold on to this position. Out in front, you can see Brad Shields trying to hold off Steve Lacey. He's got a comfortable lead, but not as big as we have seen earlier on in the weekend. So potentially Lacey ready to throw something at Shields here. They do comparable lap times, considering it was the rolling start, of course.
Yeah.
And they come around to down through turn 3. This car incredibly planted. The aero's working well. The power delivery is working well. They've got electronics inside the car that they've been fiddling with for a long time with the sequential shifter and ability to map it to make sure that they're not introducing any wheel spin and make sure that they are getting the most out of this 124 coupe. Of course, we've got to thank Real Estate and Development Solutions and the Australian Sports Sedan Association for their support of the New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship here at Winton this weekend and into the season ahead as well. They'll head to Sydney Motorsport Park on May 25 and 26 before a one-day meeting on June 22nd back at Sydney. And then we go 19th and 21st at Sydney Motorsport Park for the national and state round. Then finally, the end of September for what will be round 5, and then the TBC, which we'll believe to be one raceway sometime in November potentially, Looking forward to that circuit coming back online as well and seeing the return of sports sedans in it. Brad Shields, you'd have to think he's going to continue to maintain this gap. Probably watching the mirror a little bit to Steve Lacey behind in the real Dairy Australia Lederer Camaro. And then you got Chris Jackson just back on that. Look at the flames out the backside of Steve Lacey's car. Brilliant to see.
In fact, both the Shields car and the Lacey car, at times I've seen the flames coming out, just spotting some flames coming out of Shields' car off screen there as he heads up into the sweeper. Lacey chasing as hard as he can. Not going to be able to close that gap down based on what we've seen through the course of the weekend, but good to see these cars out there pounding around. Certainly the big thunderous machines bring us a lot of excitement out there on track, and flames again spitting from the Lacey machine.
It's just as much of work off track for all of these teams to keep these cars going throughout a whole race meeting. So as I said at the start of the race, Steve Lacey in the real Dairy Australia Lederer Shopping Centres Camaro, that car is actually for sale. Steve Igers has put a lot of work into it over many years, and he's willing to let it go to the right person. He wants to make sure it keeps it in sports sedans and does justice to the heritage of what those cars are. Multiple championship winning car, of course, and Steve Lacey looking to add another one to the collection, hopefully within this season. We'll see if he rounds out the season in that car. And then behind him, Chris Jackson, the CSJ engineering car, of course, another multi-time champion of New South Wales sports sedans. We've seen him for a long time in this Calibra. It's got a lot of cool little tech bits and pieces and gadgets in it as well. Chris Jackson likes to make sure that he's got all of the gear to be able to get the job done. He took it off the track for a couple of seasons to make sure that he was able to rebuild it, give it a full refresh and refurbishment. Has brought it back out. It's been up inside the top 5 multiple times since he's brought it back. Still getting a little bit on top of some of the setup needed, because sometimes you take a little time away from the sport and you have to catch back up again once you get back out there. But he also chucks in Brock Schaeffler into the car as well, and Brock is a neat little steerer. He has a lot of pace to burn. He is able to get the most out of this thing as well, and gets right up there with Chris's times, and Chris is pretty enthused by that. So we may well see some more young blood swapping into these seats in sports sedans. As we come down to Winton's back straight, you'll hear it blast out down towards the final complex.
That Jackson machine, great looking car on track as it powers on down the extension. Another fastest lap pops up on our screen there from Shields, a 1:22.81. That's absolutely stonking type lap times.
He's just being very consistent with them as well, slowly getting quicker and quicker, building up on each lap a little bit better. Chris Jackson comes across the line, records a 1:26 flat for that lap, and then in 4th place we've got this car. Well, there's Nissan bodied, Chev powered Sean Mulcahy car, and he is sitting in 4th place at the moment. Has not had the best of weekends, has gone back and forth, up and down through the field, but you know, looking to record a top 4 result in this race.
A little bit of a seesaw event for him, backwards and forwards, like you say, but if he's able to put the car back in the trailer at the end of the day in one piece, that's a good thing.
That's what it's all about here for sports sedans, of course. They are temperamental beasts to get through a whole weekend. Even these floor plan vehicles, which, while we call them floor plan, it basically means that they've got a chassis and you're able to put a big engine in it and then change out a lot of the undercarriage. There's not a lot of Nissan left in that car, really. Not as much as rolled off
from the Nissan.
I was going to say not as much as rolled off the factory floor, which is the same for all of these cars. But Mulcahy getting used to this car. Raced recently at Mount Panorama with it as well. Would have been quite a weapon down the main straight. Of course, if you join sports sedans, get a car and get out there racing with them, you're able to travel to all sorts of circuits around Australia. If you want to join the National Series, you can do things like Symmons Plains, and over to Adelaide in South Australia with the Bend. New South Wales has Sydney Motorsport Park. They come down to Winton, the Victorian category, who are also supporting this weekend's racing, the Australian Sports Sedan Association from Victoria. Big cheerio to all of the guys there racing. They'll be back in action in late June at Phillip Island, but you can get to Phillip Island, Winton, Calder Park. There's all sorts of tracks you can be able to race these big thunderous machine's at. And at the moment, Mulquenny is going to have to keep glancing at the rearview mirror because it looks like Glenn Pro is starting to find a little bit of pace to come back at him here as well in the late stages of this one.
Well, dare I say, he's a pro driver.
He definitely is.
Boom, boom.
He's got that thing up and about as well. You can see taking a little bit of curb at turn 1. The Supra has gone through a couple of different iterations of turbo-engined capacity builds. He's getting on top of what he's got there. Turbo Smart, part of that journey as well. Glenn does all his work at home in the garage, like so many of these guys, but really a self-funded racer, does all the work himself on the car as well. He's got a Facebook page, if you follow it, Pro Motorsport, where he keeps everybody up to date with what he's doing. If you'd like to know more about this car and what he's been doing to develop it, make sure to get onto Facebook and check that out. As with so many of them, they're willing to answer any sort of questions, help anybody out, just to be able to get more cars out there. And he's closed the gap at the moment. Last lap, he was 0.4 of a second quicker than Mulquenny in front. And it looks like at the moment he's closed that down from 1.8, though it's probably just opened up again there with a little bit of a moment in turn 10.
Commentator's curse.
Definitely, but he'll keep working at it, putting in some reasonable lap times between the pair of them as well. Very similar lap times, at both in the 131s at the moment. Come around the final corner, you can see he's closed it up again in that last complex. So have to see if, I don't think he's quite got the straight line speed, though. It looks like it might be working a little hard as well, with a few more puffs of smoke out the exhaust than we've seen all weekend. And then back to this man, Rand McClurkin Sr. Of course, the McClurkins run multiple cars across multiple disciplines of sports sedan as well, and have a few different things in the build, including a Calibra that is being worked on at the moment, though it looks like Rand Sr. has slowed down here across the line, so it might just be a little bit too long in the day to be getting the most out of the Nissan Z.
Yeah, he's certainly taken the right foot right off it as Shields comes up and straight past.
Yeah, sporting twin turbos under the front of the car. It's definitely got a lot of poke, and we've seen it right up there. A real good throwback to the Super GT styling of race car that we've seen on racetracks around the world over many years. And the Z, definitely an iconic look itself, but you make it matte black and add a little bit to it, and you definitely have something else. As now Mulquenny straight off the road at turn 10. It looked like he locked the rears on the entry, had to feed the opposite lock-in and was not able to catch it. The pressure from Glenn Pro getting to him, and that's given Pro the position back. So now we'll have to see if Mulquenny can close the gap in the late stages of this race.
Got to do it all over again.
There's plenty of back and forth like we're used to seeing in New South Wales sports sedans. Here's a replay. So this is from turn 9. The rear angle will give us a good shot here of what's happened. And as he turns it in, he just locked the inside rear. It looks like maybe a bit too much brake bias towards the rear in the late stage of the race. And as he's...
and in that need to try and correct the rotating vehicle, you've got to straighten it up and straight off the track.
So we see Brad Shields down the main straight in the Fiat 124 Coupe. Turbo rotary power. Just have a listen. How's that noise across the top of the hill? Out of turn 2. He's got a very comfortable lead at the moment of over 10 seconds. He's buttoned it off a little bit as well. About 2 seconds away from his fastest lap right now. Of course, we're probably in one of the hottest parts of the day for these guys being on track. We had a lot of cloud cover in the morning race, so it was a lot cooler out there, and at this point in time it's just bring it home, make sure you get the championship points, and start to focus on Sydney Motorsport Park round 2 coming up at the end of May, where we'll no doubt see a lot more of the regular New South Wales competitors come out to play and bring their cars out as well. We've had a few cars going through updates in the off season. Of course, everybody on the ever constant search for more power, more grip, more top speed, and greater, faster lap times. Means that a lot of people tinker away in the off season. Some people swap cars, some people buy cars. Everybody trying to do their best to get themselves further up the grid and chase down this man, Brad Shields, who wears the number 1 on the door for a reason. He's the defending New South Wales champion. He's got a couple of championships to get under his belt to catch the men behind him in Lacey and Jackson for overall championships in New South Wales Sports Sedans. But, you know, if he keeps driving this Joe said beast of a Fiat, he may well catch up to them reasonably quickly.
What an absolute weapon it is. I'd love to take a closer look at that car, but I haven't had a chance to do that at this stage. Who knows, I may get a chance later on.
Joe said's always welcoming of anyone in the pit garage to come and have a look at it. Takes it out to a lot of different places, as well as do most of these drivers. Actually, they like to get the cars out in front of people. You'll see them at different car shows throughout the year. So we take a look at Steve Lacey again in the real Dairy Australia Lederer Camaro, Ripple Strip Motorsport. Steve puts on a couple of other events as well throughout the year for sports sedans, including the combined sedans up at Bathurst each year. So that gets a great field of sports sedans and other invited vehicles. And how's the big flame out the side?
Yeah.
I think one of the most iconic things you can have in sports sedans is those big flames from the overrun. You don't see it in a lot of motorsport disciplines anymore, with the way that they are, I guess, more responsible with fuel economy and making sure they got smaller tanks. But
yeah, it used to be quite a thing back in, well, really the 80s and probably the 90s a little bit, I suppose.
That's it.
The big flames.
I'll show the gap here between Steve Lacey and Chris Jackson, but Chris Jackson's just going down into turn 6, so he's a bit away from turn 10. There we go. He's coming down into turn 6 and 7. He looks like he might have eased off the pace as we get into the final stage of this one. Brad Shields still pumping away out in front, putting in 124s. He's about a second a lap quicker than Steve Lacey, so he keeps opening the gap. Chris Jackson, I'd say by the way that he has dropped away from his outright pace at the moment, he's bringing that car home. Of course, it's very hard for the New South Wales competitors, despite the great support from Victoria, Victorian teams, Victorian mechanics and helpers who come up because they love sports sedans. It's quite a tight-knit community. But unfortunately for them, a lot of the spare parts, you can only fit so much in the trailer, you can only bring so many extras, and as often is the case with these cars, they might look kind of similar across the group of them. The space frame body gives away that maybe underneath they might be
vastly different.
Yeah, exactly, quite similar to each other, and in fact everybody's gone their own direction. There's pretty much no template for these cars, especially the outright front cars with the space frame chassis. And unfortunately, that means that the pickup points can all be different, custom fabbed equipment can all be different, and it means that you don't necessarily have a piece you can just go and grab from even a fellow competitor to be able to help each other out. As Brad Shields starts his way on the final lap of the weekend here at Winton Motor Raceway for the New South Wales Sports Sedans, proudly brought to you by Real Estate and Development Solutions this weekend. We thank them for their support, as well as the Australian Sports Sedan Association, our Victorian friends, who will be racing at Phillip Island later in the season. You'll be able to see that on Glenline TV as well. But for now, Brad Shields around the outside of Glen Pro. He won't have any problems there. Glenn will give him plenty of room and just be able to bring that Pro Motorsport Supra home. Brad Shields, a little bit of curb down the bottom of the hill. He's just having fun now. In a sports sedan, taking the curbs down through there isn't necessarily the quickest way through the circuit.
Especially when this car appears to have a lot of downforce on it.
It does,
Once you start and get wheels up over the curbs, you lose that downforce, so it could be a bit of a treacherous move.
It's not something he'd be looking to do every lap, that's for sure. But at the moment, he's going to be able to bring it home quite comfortably. He makes the run down the back straight. For the last time, we hear the scream of the rotary turbo. Down into the final complex, very smooth. I don't expect anything other than line and length here from Brad Shields through the final quarter, and he's going to deliver Joe Said, and Joe Said Racing a 3 from 3 performance here at Winton Motor Raceway. A great way to start the season and pursue that second championship in a row. Steve Lacey in the real Dairy Australia Lederer Camaro brings it home in a comfortable second place. He set PBs to start the weekend. I don't think he'll be too disappointed with 3 race finishes and the championship points to back it up in second place throughout the weekend. So they'll pack that car up and head to Sydney Motorsport Park, where the real Dairy Camaro is quite a weapon and speedy as well. And then third place will go to this man, Chris Jackson, in the CSJ Engineering Calibra. Great to see it back out there, one of the iconic cars of the sport. One of the great drivers great competitors of New South Wales Sports Sedan as well. It's fantastic to have Chris Jackson back out there as he makes his way down to turn 10. He'll swing it around, do the blast down the back straight for the last time. Let the Calibra sing.
And of course you make mention of heading to different tracks and the fact that there's so much difference in these cars internally. What suits one track may well not suit another. So
definitely
those variations in the car could be track specific almost.
That's it. They'll tune them up for Sydney Motorsport Park now, get them ready for the fast-flowing nature of that track, and of course that incredible run down into turn 1 where the aero of these vehicles also comes into play to be able to make sure they've got the most pace they can. As we take a look at the final results, Brad Shields leads home Steve Lacey, Chris Jackson, Glenn Pro, Sean Mulqueny and Rand McClurkin Sr. round out our field. Graham Smith and Francois Habib not getting out there for this one. Thank you for watching and enjoying trackside the New South Wales Sports Sedans. It's been a great weekend of racing. We'll be back very shortly